Hey, ladies. Tonight's conversation is all about surviving imposter syndrome. And if anybody feels like an imposter, it's me these days. We're going to talk about it in real time. So many of us are on the level up, whether you are just getting into your career, whether you are transitioning, whether you are moving to um, a new company, and so many of us oftentimes fight this imposter syndrome thing. So I thought it would be a great conversation for us to have today. Definitely hit the like button. I'm going to put the 90-second clock on, give people a chance to come in, and then we are going to get started with the show. So here we go. Welcome to Black Women Making Money. We are the home of the upwardly mobile Black woman. For exclusive content and invitations to our Inner Circle Zoom meetings, which happen on a monthly basis, you can sign up for free for our email newsletter at bwmakingmoney.com. That's bwmakingmoney.com. Hello to all of my UMBWs. Whoever said the level up was easy just lied. They lied. Y'all, I have so much work, which is a good thing on my plate. The phone is ringing. Things are happening over here. The level up is happening, but it's hard. And if you're anyone like me, you may be going through imposter syndrome. And I was surprised. I guess I shouldn't have been at some of the people who go through imposter syndrome. So tonight's session isn't going to be long because I have to take a little business trip. However, I did want to come on, do Money Mondays, talk about imposter syndrome, because so many of us as professional Black women, we get into these great opportunities, but we wonder, when are people going to find out we're total frauds? When are people going to find out that we don't know as much as they think we know, right? When is the mask going to fall off? And I just want to share some words of encouragement and hope in this crazy time that we're going through right now with regards to overcoming imposter syndrome. So, today was one of the first days that ChatGPT actually helped me pull together my content for Black Women Making Money. So, if you're not using ChatGPT on a regular basis, I definitely recommend you get started. I actually set up a separate Black Women Making Money account, And I basically told ChatGPT anything we're talking about in this account are from my upwardly mobile Black women. I called you all UMBWs within ChatGPT. I got it trained today. And look, ChatGPT came through with regards to the imposter syndrome. I started off based on a session that I heard from a Black woman in a multicultural setting, but she was talking about imposter syndrome, and I snapped pictures over a year ago with regards to her presentation. And then I found the original research online, and well, ChatGPT came through and gave us some information here. So if you suffer from imposter syndrome, put a one in the chat. If you suffer from imposter syndrome, put a one in the chat. I'm going to throw my one in here right now because I absolutely do suffer from imposter syndrome. Most of you know, a little over 2 years ago, I began my journey as a loan officer. And just when I think I'm hitting my stride, then there's something else I'm learning, something else that is being taught to me. And I'm like, okay, you know, uh, but one of the interesting things about being a loan officer, and I hear this from people who are in the business for 10, 20 years, is that you learn something new all the time. There are always new programs, there are always new ways of helping people, there are always new situations that people have. And we are all just trying to do the best that we can for our borrowers, again, in my situation. And you may be, doing the same thing within your situation. So let's talk a little bit about imposter syndrome here. And there are 5 types of imposters. And this is some of the research that I got from a woman who did this session on imposter syndrome. She said that there's the perfectionist, the superwoman, the expert, the natural genius, and the soloist. And you can tell me what you think you are right now. Some of us are perfectionists, unless we know everything, unless it's perfect, we don't put it out. And if it's not perfect, we feel like we're imposters. Some of us are superwomen. Some of us are experts. Some of us are natural geniuses. Some of us are soloists. And we're going to go through some famous examples of people who have these types of imposter um, personalities professionally. So, the first person is Michelle Obama. Y'all, Michelle Obama is a perfectionist. In her book, Becoming, y'all, shout out to ChatGPT. ChatGPT gave me this information, but it is true. In her book, Becoming, Michelle Obama talked about the fact that even at Princeton, she felt like she wasn't smart enough to be in the room. This is Michelle Obama. Now, I'm not like some Michelle Obama person, but this is pretty much the cream of the crop, right? Michelle Obama grew up with a father who had multiple sclerosis. And I believe she had parents that really pushed her a lot, like if you're Gen X Black woman, especially, you had that fire lit under you where you had to be 3 times as good to get half as much. So we as Black women focus so much on being perfectionists. And if we are not perfect, we feel like imposters in the room. And Michelle Obama was talking about, am I good enough? Am I good enough to be at Princeton? Am I good enough to be at this top law firm? She may have even asked, am I good enough to be a wife? We probably know she said, am I good enough to be first lady? And she was, even though I don't necessarily agree with everything Michelle Obama has said and done. I will admit that she was a gracious first lady, that she represented us well, that her family represented us well in the White House. But being a perfectionist sometimes If we are not perfect, we feel like imposters, and that's not true. That's not true. If we fail at something, there's a difference, of course, between being perfect with something and failing at something. God help it if we fail at something. And let me tell you something. I'm probably a perfectionist, truly, and I hate failing. I hate it. But some sort of way, we have to be able to understand that failure is part of the process, that we're not going to do everything well, that we don't have to kill ourselves in order to be in the room, in order to get to the table. How many of us as UMBWs are like, I'm smarter than that person, and yet that person is making more money than me? They're more networked than me. And I have consistently said it is not always racism, white supremacy. In fact, most of the time, it is not racism, white supremacy. Most of the time, we're not negotiating for the right salaries. Most of the time, we're not networking and networked properly. So we can take some of the burden off of ourselves being perfectionists with regards to our technical skills. And we can just be us and just be gracious and just be lovable and go into these professional settings knowing what we know, but also being the likable people that we are. In fact, I was in a meeting earlier today with some leaders, and the leader of this multi-billion dollar company was in with us. It's probably like $1 billion, shouldn't say multi-billion, but $1 billion company. And he said, if I don't like somebody, I don't hire them. He said that liking somebody for his team, this is a guy running $1 billion company, liking somebody for his team was more important to him than trusting them and then their technical skills. And he didn't use the term technical skills, but that's basically what he was referring to. Liking somebody. So some of us need to basically take that burden off of us. Understand that it's about focus, focusing on progress, not perfection, on saying I'm better today than I was yesterday, on trusting people unless they give you a reason not to trust them, on delegating to people. If you're a manager, I have somebody who works for me. She does things. It started out 50% as well as I do. Now, this weekend, I needed something done. And I'm like, oh shoot, this woman, my assistant, knows how to do this thing that I don't even know how to do because I trust her so much now that I delegate so much to her now. And the other thing that perfectionists need to do is celebrate the small wins instead of fixating on mistakes. You're winning. I'm winning. I did my taxes this weekend. I was like, oh, I actually did okay last year with regards to money. Now, my bank account, I actually started saving some money at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. So yes, so I shouldn't pout and complain about that. But yeah, it's true that as perfectionists, we should celebrate the small wins instead of fixating on our mistakes. That's absolutely true. So I'm going to come in here and say hello to everybody. Becca Boo is here saying she's a superwoman and soloist. Jessica is here listening while working and multitasking. Innocently Weird is saying perfectionist and soloist as well. Level Up Single Moms in the house. True Mistake is here. True Mystique, sorry. True Mystique is here saying hello to everybody. Jessica's saying, yes, learn this while recruiting. Managers hire often on instinct and if they like a person. And Jessica's also saying, also many hired based on how confident a person seems, regardless of experience levels. This is absolutely true. And I do think that we as Black women need to work a lot more on our confidence if we feel like we have imposter syndrome. We really do. So I'm going to actually show you all of shorts of Michelle here. Make sure this is showing up for everybody and my audio is higher. This is with regards to Michelle Obama and the imposter syndrome here. Let's hear what's being said.
An empowering lesson from Michelle Obama.
I am still a work in progress, and facing myself each morning with something kind is still a challenge. But I try every day to greet myself with a positive message. It's really a shame that so many of us, particularly women, that we have a hard time just sort of looking at our own image and not tearing it apart and figuring out what's wrong. But I think that that's at the core of some of our unease and unhappiness, because if we don't start out by learning to love ourselves as we are, it's hard to pass that on to others. So I am working on it every single day.
An empower.
She's working on it every single day, and so am I. Honestly, so am I. I have people coming to me every day asking me questions, and I can concentrate on the question that the person asked me that I didn't know the answer to, that I had to go back and ask the underwriters and ask the team about. Or I can say, yeah, Cherie, but you got 10 questions today from people, and 9 of those questions you knew, and one of them you didn't. So it's okay that you didn't know the 1 out of 10. You told the person you would get back to them. You go, you ask the question of the underwriter and the management team. They tell you what the answer is. You provide that answer to the person. And guess what? The person is elated, and they didn't care that you didn't know the answer right away. They didn't care that you're like, okay, let me let me get back to you with regards to that. So a lot of us do tend to we tend to be hard on ourselves. We tend to be hard on ourselves. So that is the first thing we want to talk about here. And for some reason, my little Canva messed up here. So let me get back into my presentation. Give me a second, ladies. Oops. And let me see if it's up. Okay, perfect. So I apologize, ladies. Okay, so the first thing is the perfectionist. That's the first type of imposter we are. The second type of imposter we are is the superwoman. Does anybody know who the superwoman is on the screen here? Shout out to ChatGPT. ChatGPT told me that this woman is a superwoman. Does anybody know who this superwoman is on the screen here? And I shall give you a hint. She is the writer of How to Get Away with Murder. She is the writer of, what was the Kerry Washington TV show? Where she's the president's fixer. Shonda Rhimes. Yes, yes. What is the name of the Kerry Washington show where she's the fixer for the president? Scandal. Yes, Scandal. She wrote Bridgerton, right? Yet this woman is a superwoman. And you're like, of course she's a superwoman, Cherie. Yet she feels like an imposter. And the superwoman imposter is like a type of imposter, right? Because we only see her as a superwoman. We only see the fact that the woman owned like Thursday Night on a major network. And then Netflix snagged her. And she's doing her thing. I read her book of Yes as well. It was a great book. It really was. So I definitely suggest ladies, UMBWs, read Book of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. But let's hear what Shonda Rhimes has to say. Or actually, this isn't Shonda. This is another TikTok where I believe the person had a really great point based on Shonda's story. So here we go.
Stop hiding your work until it looks like you're heroes.
Okay, I'm going to say what she said, but just a little differently. You're not Shonda Rhimes, so stop trying to be. Who you are is enough. And the sooner you lean into yourself, the closer you will get to finding your voice in your writing. And then one day, people will want to be you. Happy writing.
Stop hiding your.
I love that. I love what that woman said. Because so many of us are like, I wish I was that person. I wish I had that person's career. I wish I had that person's husband. I wish I had that person's kids. I wish I could jet set as an executive assistant like that person, right? And we have this imposter syndrome. One of the reasons why ChatGPT says that Shonda Rhimes is the superwoman imposter is because this is a quote that she had. I realized I had been working myself into the ground trying to prove I deserved my seat at the table. Shonda Rhimes said this. I realized I had been working myself into the ground trying to prove I deserved my seat at the table. And we as UMPWs have a tendency to do that, where we have a tendency to work and not enjoy ourselves or remain in toxic environments because we're scared to go someplace else or, feel guilty when we're resting or, not take care of ourselves. Shonda Rhimes ended up losing 117 pounds when she started saying no to certain things and yes to other things. And why was she not saying no to certain things? Because she felt like an imposter, because she felt grateful to be at the table instead of saying, you know what? The big reason you're at that we have this table, the big reason we have this table is because I'm here. And actually wearing that. And there's a way to wear it where it's not arrogance and where people aren't off-putted by you, but where they're like, yeah, we know you're the bomb. Yes, we'll pay you what you're worth. Yes, we want you in our orbit. Yes, you do your thing. Yes, you're talented. And we don't have to be superwoman. We can just be us. We can just be women. We can have a day off. We can have a weekend off. Shonda talked about the fact that she worked 7 days a week. And then she got to a point where she was like, no more. And she started just working Monday through Friday. Yeah. So Shonda does look good. Yes, she does. But that's because she took off the cape. And some of us need to start doing that. J. Antoinette is saying, reminds me of a quote I heard, be yourself, everyone else is taken. That's true. Notary World saying, she is the table. Yes, she is. J. Antoinette is saying, all the pitfalls of overcompensation. It's the truth. And it'll put us in the ground early if we are not careful when it comes to this. Notary World is saying she should be grateful for living her dreams. Here's the thing, Notary World, is that we have to also take time to enjoy our dreams. And that's just a really big thing. We work so hard because we think that if we take a day off, if we take an hour off, if we ask for time off, if we step away from the office, for you and I, we're business people. If we step away from our phone, somebody else is going to get that client. And the truth is, if we set things up a certain way, that won't be the case. According to Wikipedia, her net worth is 250 million. She is one of the richest women in Hollywood. I would believe that. I would believe that. And some of that 250 million, that is going to be recurring revenue. Every time somebody streams Bridgerton, she probably gets a piece of the back end. Every time somebody streams Grey's Anatomy or Scandal, she gets a piece off the back end. So depending on how her contracts were set up, that's long money. That's long money. All right, let's go to the next type of imposter. Our dear Maya Angelou, who is deceased. She was the expert. And you're like, Cherie, what does the expert have to do with being an imposter? Well, the symptoms of the expert is they feel like they never know enough. They hesitate to speak up unless they are fully prepared. Maya Angelou had a quote. She said, I have written 11 books, but each time I think, uh-oh, they're going to find me out now. Despite her legendary career, she still feared being, quote, found out. How many of us know our ish? We know our stuff in the workplace, and yet we feel like imposters because we feel like somebody else knows more than we do. And the minute the rest of the office finds out that they know more than we do, that's it. We're going to be fired. We're going to be let go. And the supermajority of the time, that's just not true. And if you are a person that people like, even if you make a mistake and the mistake wasn't malicious, it was just a mistake, people will shrug that off and keep it moving. So we have to, one of the other things that being the expert talks about is the fact that we are not good at accepting praise from other people. When people are like, oh, you are so smart. Oh, you are so good at this. You're so talented. Being able to say thank you and then ask for a raise or do what Mentor Shelley does and tells you to put that praise in your log, especially if they if they email it to you or they write it. So yeah, so being an expert is one of the imposter syndromes that we have. All right, the next type of imposter syndrome is the natural genius. The natural genius. We're going to talk about Serena here first. So a natural genius is kind of tough because this is somebody who is naturally talented. They're naturally talented. However, if they do not work hard and combine that with the natural talent, they end up like Lindsay Lohan. So, the natural genius feels discouraged when they're facing challenges because they are naturally good at what they do. Though talented, she needs to work hard to stay on top. She also needs to embrace learning and growth. So some of us are naturally talented. So let's take somebody I hear is natural genius. I'll just say possibly Kanye. Kanye is a natural genius, so people say. I don't know either way, but put a 2 in the chat if anybody agrees that Kanye is a natural genius. Put a 3 in the chat if you do not believe Kanye is a natural genius in music, let's say, in music. I don't know personally. I don't listen to him enough like that. But just because someone is a natural genius doesn't mean that they will stay on top. Doesn't mean that and they can easily become imposters if they're not careful. Yeah, he crazy, Jessica. Kanye is crazy. So, allegedly, I guess we should say allegedly. Just in case he ever comes around the UMBW channel, we should say allegedly. He allegedly crazy. Yes. But um, Serena Williams did say, this is a quote from her, everyone's path is different. The important thing is to keep working hard and never give up. And understand that even though you are a natural genius, and this isn't what Serena said, this is just notes here. Even though you are a natural genius, success never comes easily. It doesn't. So, and then the final kind of imposter is the soloist. It's the soloist. And you got Beyonce on here because people like this, when it comes to being an imposter, they feel like they must do everything alone. And they believe that asking for help is a weakness. Yeah, I would say she's a perfectionist too. Yeah, I agree with that. The soloist gets hammered because they believe that asking for help is a weakness. Beyonce said early in her career, she tried to do everything herself, from writing songs to managing performances, which is a very interesting thing because I thought that her father had control over the entire group. But this is what she said. She tried to do everything herself, from writing songs to managing performances. Eventually, she had to learn how to build a strong team, including producers, choreographers, and managers to help her reach new heights. What I'm saying here with regard to imposter syndrome is we feel like we have to do everything on our own. I'll give you a great example. I was going to learn how to do a specific type of coding. And in order to do that, I thought that I had to do all of the lessons on my own. And one day I sat back and I said, well, this is stupid. Why don't I hire a, um, a tutor to help me? Ended up hiring a tutor. There were a group of us that ended up hiring this tutor for $50 an hour. And all of a sudden, it was, little things that she told us. We were like, oh, okay, we get it. We see what's happening here now. The soloist is a really bad part of imposter syndrome because if you show any kind of weakness with regards to asking other people for help, with regards to getting help, you are considering yourself a failure, and that's not true. Another imposter syndrome with regards to the soloists, for those of us UMBWs, is asking people to mentor you, like truly mentor you. Asking people to help you with regards to whatever it is you need to reach the next level in your career. And sometimes it's not technical skills. Sometimes it's some of the soft skills, right? But Beyonce is saying here that if she did not learn how to build a strong team, she would not have ever reached new heights. And the truth is, all these people saying that they are self-made billionaires and self-made millionaires, this is not true. Everybody gets help. And you're not an imposter because you ask for help. You're human. And I believe that Beyonce can sing. I'm not part of that group. I do believe she can sing. I do believe she's naturally talented. I think, she had a certain amount of privilege with regards to her look. Yes. But the woman works really hard as well. And she also had to learn how to lean on other people in order to reach the new heights that she's at. Right? So, my notes here says in her documentary Homecoming, Beyonce admitted to struggling to delegate and trust others, but realize collaboration is the key to success. You're not an imposter because you need help. You're not an imposter because you've made a mistake. You're not an imposter because you want to take a day off and spend time with your family or your friends. You're not an imposter because you want to take a vacation. You're not an imposter because you need to research something before you respond to people. You're not. You're not. So I'm going to read these final helpful tips. I'm going to read the rest of your your responses. If anyone wants to come up, because I do have a few minutes, we ended up a little early. Put a 7 in the chat if anybody wants to come up and say something. If not, I'm going to read these final helpful hints, and we are going to read your last comments and get out of here. The helpful hints are: number 1, you need to replace "I'm not good enough" with "I'm learning and growing." And that's perfectly fine. If you have your multicultural networks and your soft skills, they will understand I'm learning and growing. You don't have to know everything. If you're in a toxic work environment, then the goal is for you to get out of the toxic work environment, not for you to say, I can't show these people any sign of weakness. Is let me get out of here and get into an environment, where as long as I'm learning and growing, that's fine. And you want to be in an environment where you not only can, you are expected to always be learning and growing. If you're in a work environment where you are expected to stay stagnant, that is not the work environment for a UMBW. If you're in a marriage where you're expected to be stagnant and never grow, that is not the marriage for a UMBW. If your husband or your spouse is stagnant and not growing, I'm not here to tell you to get divorced. I'm just saying that's not a healthy marriage for a UMBW. If your kids are not learning and growing, that is not the healthy environment for a UMBW. So the second tip, keep a success journal to track your wins. I love that. Because then you discover like, hey, 10 people asked me questions today. 9 of them I knew. The 10th one I didn't know, but that's fine. That's fine. I'm still winning, right? Next thing, build a network of like-minded people. And the final thing, know that you belong in every room and at every table. So again, if anybody wants to come up, I'm going to ask you to put a 7 in the chat. Otherwise, we shall read these comments and get out of here. You're saying that Beyonce is perfectionist. Jessica's saying, I am a soloist too, but it's mainly because I have trust issues from childhood. So that's where the healing needs to come in. Jantoinette is saying, is it possible to be an amalgamation of all of these? Yes, absolutely. Level Up Single Mom is saying, I realized recently that I had been isolating myself and taking everything on. I just didn't see my team around me until I did. Love that. Torian Dreams is here during tax season. Hello. And Purple Rain is saying, I don't mind delegating tasks to others as long as they actually do that task. So if they're not doing the task at all, then they're not the right people. If they're doing the task and it's 50%, like when my assistant first started, it was, she did it 50%. Okay. I had to spend time teaching her like what to do. Now the woman is like beyond anything I could have ever imagined. If people are doing the task at 80% of the level that you would or above, girl, run with it. Run with it. So, And Purple Rain is giving us a thumbs up. Okay, so nobody wants to come up? No problem. I hope that you learned something this evening and you take some of these things with you. We'll be back next Money Monday. And that's it, ladies. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. Take care.